Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here once again. I have recently decided to buy this whiteboard. I'm always talking about numbers of different things, so I decided to put one up on the big wall here. You never realize how big these things are until you get one up on the wall. But I'm going to do my best every so often to get some numbers on COVID-19 and along with other things that I'll be talking about down the road. But I want to try to get through this as quickly and as efficiently as possible so everyone sees the numbers and can make their own decisions based on the actual numbers that are in the Connecticut Department of Health. Not what we've been told on the news or anything like that. See the numbers by yourself and make your own judgment. So I want to talk about Connecticut Senior Citizens as I always do. Every life is important, but it's the senior citizens that we're scaring, and those are the people who die at a higher rate. But they die at a higher rate no matter how you look at it. And that's what bothers me along with other senior citizens that I'm even coming across in my daily life who think this is nonsense. It's amazing how it's even senior citizens. Not every senior citizen. I'm not saying every single one, but many that in my travels. So I want to look back at September 26th. That's when I made a real hard study on it. I really broke down numbers to a much deeper degree. And then obviously we come to here to January 29th. So this is September 26th and that's January 29th. So when we were at September 26th, September 26th, we were at 56,587. Then we were at tests of 1,516,780. Hospitalizations 76, total deaths 4,501. So that's 4,501. We jumped to now, which is January 29th, and that's 7,046. Look at the case jump from 56,587,000 to 250,023. Now here's a number we should look at too. At that point in time, September, that's 4 months ago now, 7.9% of those cases led to death, as opposed to now, 2.83% lead to death. Yes, it's a lot more cases. Yes, it's a lot more deaths. But look at the percentages. That's an important key because that means far more are beating it. And why is that? We have to figure out. And it's not the vaccines because they haven't fully rolled out yet. Even right now, they're not 100% out there. So even before the trend started, these vaccines and the trend of it getting better was already on the rise. Now, back in September 26th, from 0 to 9 years old, you had one death. 10 to 19 years old, you had one death. 20 to 29, 4 deaths. 30 to 39, 21, 40 to 49, 58 deaths. 50 to 59, 186. You'll see that I have a line across there because that's when I started breaking down 60 and over as the senior citizen mark. And at that point, we go 555 deaths. 70, 79, 984 deaths, 80 and over, 2,691 deaths. Out of those cases, and you can't see the total count, which it did not add up, rough numbers, 18, 17, 19, 19,400, I think, something like that. I'm doing quick math. But the point here is 78.2% of senior citizens survived. So that's a good number, and we want it to be better, right? Well, lo and behold, let me walk across the whiteboard. 88.3% would be the number now. So as of today, 88.3% of senior citizens over the age of 60 survive. We look at the death total. So from September to January, 0 to 9 years old, one death remained the same. Now 10 to 19 is one death back in September, and currently we're at 3 deaths. Now, I don't know if I actually believe that death. I'm a little chair in my way here. I don't know if I 100% believe that. Why do I not believe it? Because it went from 1 to 2 to 1 to 3. That makes me suspicious. I don't know about anybody else, but that makes me a little suspicious. 20 to 29 years old. It was 4 deaths back in September 26th. And then we go to 6 now. Here's an interesting thing. The same thing happened here, except we didn't go backwards. It was at 6 for a while, jumped to 7, and then 3-4 days later, it was back down to 6. Now, I know it for a fact because I have every single one of them documented. And what I do is I go onto their website and I snapshot each category and I print them out. So it's there. So I don't lie to you. It's from the Connecticut Department of Health. They made the error. And if they made the error, how many other errors are being made? I'm just saying. Now we look at 30 to 39, 21 deaths, 33 deaths, 58, 100, 186, 338. Now we start making our jumps as we know it's going to happen. 555, we jump up to 882. 984, we jump up to 1,569. 2,691, we jump up to 4,114. Here's the numbers I like looking at also. So in that time frame, 92.62% of 60 to 69 years old were survival. That was the survival rate. Today, 96.70. So that means we're looking at a 4% jump. So that's a good thing. 4%. They're surviving at a 4% higher ratio. So 4% higher. That's a good thing. Then we look at 70, 79, where we have 79.8%. I'm sorry, 79.18%. Move over to now today of January 29th, 4 months later, in a couple days. 89.28. So that means that's jumped up 10%. And that's really before we have that we can really know what the vaccines are doing. So if we were already in an upward trend, I'm always going to question, why do we have that vaccine? Why is it so important to take that vaccine if the numbers really don't support it? If the trend is we're getting better without the full implementation of vaccines, why are we taking it? Now, I'm not going to say that I'm anti or pro. Well, I'm mostly anti. But anyways, what I'm saying is you have to make that decision for yourself. I want people to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine based on research that they're able to do. Getting the actual true numbers. Now, you're not always going to get that. Look at the actual raw data that's in the Connecticut Department of Health. And those of you who watch my videos from somewhere else, look at your state also. Look at your Department of Health numbers. I look at South Carolina, which is pretty transparent. The only reason I really look at them because my brother lives in South Carolina. But I'll look at other numbers in New Hampshire. Forget about Massachusetts. That's a mess. And if anybody lives in Massachusetts, you know your state isn't a mess. And I lived in Massachusetts. Grew up in Massachusetts most of my life. So I understand how much of a mess that place is. So now we look at, and we talked about this, 92% to 97 overall. That's the total. So we're doing as a whole better. And that's including the senior citizens. And even you look at that, every category has gone up in survival rate. Every single category. It's just the senior citizens have jumped up higher, which is good. You would think they'd be gradual, and maybe the younger folks would jump up higher. No, they just right through the roof. They're doing awesome, the senior citizens. So we have to look at that in total. Long-term care facilities, 2,878 deaths, September 26th, in long-term care facilities. Now we look over here, in January 29th, 3,738. Let's look over here. I'm going to turn again. 3,738 deaths in long-term care facilities. So, now we look at, and I did not put the number up here, and I thought I did, but that's unfortunate. I did not put the percentage up here for that, and I apologize when you play that against it. I think there was back in September 26th, there were 85 deaths. There were 85 deaths in long-term care facilities. The other number I did not put up here, and I again apologize, but thankfully it's in my memory banks. There was 3 deaths with healthcare workers. Now I know we're talking a lot about that. Let's get shots for the healthcare workers in the long-term care facilities. So on September 26th, 3. There was 3 that had died that whole time. Not in that month, from the beginning of COVID to that moment. 3. And yes, 3 is too many. Nobody's arguing that point. As of January 29th, it's a total of 5. So in 4 months, 2 more healthcare workers have passed away, presumably COVID-19. I'm not going to sit here and say that's a guarantee that they really did or didn't. I mean, that's what they write down. And that has its own another branch of conspiracies. And why do I talk about these things? Because there's deception in the world. There's deception. And those of you who are Christians know what I mean. And have heard this many times. There's deception in the church. There's deception in the government. But there is no deception. Let's grab one of these beautiful King James Bibles. There's no deception here. None at all. Okay, some of you want to make a comment and have an argument. That's fine. But there's no deception. It even warns you of deception. So we go back to the population of senior citizens. 734,800 senior citizens in the state of Connecticut, from the numbers I got from the Connecticut Bureau. Now there's 3.7 million, I believe, in population total of just people. 0.0089% died of COVID. 7.6% of those senior citizens even got COVID. So who's getting COVID-19? If only 7.6 of that whole population, who are these tests? Who is going in for these tests? And I got to be honest with you, I know a lot of people who refuse to go get the test. They're not going to get the test. They're just not doing it. It doesn't make sense. And there are others that are going to go in probably multiple times. Why do I say multiple times? Because I was going to see my wife. I was going to surprise her. I'm going to get slightly mushy here, but I was going to surprise her because I hadn't seen her all day. We were doing a shift change. I was getting out of work, and she was going to work. She's a nurse at a hospital. And so I went to the lobby to wait for her. And it's funny because everybody's being, where are you going, where are you going? I just said hello to the office assistant, stood there, and they looked at me briefly, and I said, I'm just waiting for my wife. She's a nurse here. She's for her shift. And they just like, okay, cool. And there were actually a couple nurses coming in with no mask, but a lot of people were just walking in with masks. I'm not criticizing that, I'm not saying that. But there was this man who came in. He came up to the I don't know what do you want to call it, kiosk, desk, or whatever you want, the entryway. And there were two officers there, one security, one regular. And they asked the gentleman, what are you here for? And he goes, I'm here for a test. And he goes, all right. He goes, okay, do you have a scheduled appointment? Which I thought that was weird. And he goes, yes. And he goes, all right, so it's down the, and he goes, I know, down the hall, take a left, and was it take a right and then to the left or something like that. He knew exactly where that room was. So that means I wonder how many of these tests are repeated people. And then if that's the case, then you go to this 250,000 cases, these 5.6 million people, how many of them are doubles and triples? I know another man I worked with, another gentleman, his mother-in-law. She's done 3 tests. I'm not saying you can't do 3 tests. All I'm saying is when you do that, then the numbers are kind of strange. And when it comes to senior citizens, by the way, it doesn't tell you really how many totally get tested. Except for long-term care facilities, it's actually 17,000. I'm struck by that. But let us look at the total situation here. September 26th, before January 29th, before the full rollout of vaccinations, 78.2% survival rate, we're up to 88.3%. Deception is in the world, folks. This is just one step closer to you know where we're going. If you're born again, you're saved, you know where we're going here. There's more coming behind this. And the reason we're going to have more come behind us is because of this. The deception of this, and people will say, I know someone who died of COVID-19. And I'm sorry that they did. And I'm sorry for your loss. It's terrible. And if you've watched my video before, I've already said that my mother, I lost her. She passed away. And some will say she shouldn't have. She was in a coma. And the plug was pulled, so to speak. So, and I get it. Losing someone when you don't think you should have. And when it wasn't time. And when there were so many errors. And there's so many things I could blame for that. And there's a lot of mistakes made in that whole situation. But she's gone. And there's nothing we can do about that. But what we can do is we can look at the bigger picture. Sometimes we look at that small picture because it affected us directly. And I get it, and that's hard to do. But we have to step outside that and look at the bigger picture. I guarantee you, and I shouldn't, but I'm sure there's a lot of senior citizens out there who will tell you, don't mask your kids. Don't mask your children for me. And they're right. And they're noble. And they're awesome. And they're right. I know a group of senior citizens sit outside a closed down store in a plaza nearby, and I just sit out there and talk. And I was thinking, ooh, the weather's cold now, I'm thinking, so I'm not going to see them. Last time I saw them was a couple of weeks ago. And then I am not kidding. Yesterday, they were out there again. I could not believe it. They were out there. I mean, they were bundled, but they were out there. They're stronger than we are, and the generations behind me are. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Just saying. So let us take, I was going to say solace, but let's be happy. Let's celebrate not the ones who have just died, because their lives are significant, but let's celebrate all those who have survived, because their lives are significant. There are people living that may make a huge impact on other people's lives. Let's celebrate those lives, because they are here and now, and they can make differences. Don't count it off like it doesn't matter, because all we care about is the dead. The dead are gone and past. And you can mourn them, you can be sad, all of that is what it should be. But at the end of the day, there are people that are living. Let us not penalize and put down and make these lives worthless. This is not about a race. This is not about a color, gender, or whatever you want to make. This is not about that. All these lives are important that have survived. They have an ability to make an impact in someone's lives. I'm looking for the right word to use. So before the vaccination rollout here, 78.2%, 88.3%, we're on the right path that keeps getting better every day, and we're still complaining and we're saying we're all going to die. That is terrible. That is absolutely a disgusting approach that people are taking in not only the mainstream media, whatever you want to call it, but on the radio ads I hear. It's such beautiful scare tactics. It's so subtle. It's so, hey, don't you care? Come on. That's sad. Sad. People living. Less than 1% of the senior citizens have actually died of COVID-19. 7.6%. That's less than 8% even got COVID-19. And those who got COVID-19 are living. Long-term care facilities where your major populations are. So here, 28 out of 45, that's roughly 69%. Actually, I had that written down. 69%. I believe it is 69. I thought I had it somewhere as I'm singing. Sorry, 63.9%. 63.9% of the total. And that is a little lower, and that is at 53. So over half of your deaths are LTCs, long-term care. And then what? 63% of your long-term cares of this in September. People are living. Let's celebrate the living. Let's be happy. Let's be excited. Let's have hope. No fear. None whatsoever. Listen, I appreciate you tuning into this video. Maybe I was a little hyped up in energy or whatever. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't mask 99.9% of the time, so where would I fall? 99.99% of the time I don't mask. My kids aren't masked. None of them. All my boys are not masked. None of them. I don't know about my stepson up in Mass. I don't know how often he masks. I have no idea. I pray that he's doing well, obviously, and that because I don't see him. So I have a father who lives up there. He very rarely masks. He's fine. My brother has to mask where he's working down South Carolina. Other than that, he's not a big masker. No COVID. One of the highest causes I saw was hypertension. And I thought to myself, hypertension. So we're scaring people, giving them hypertension. Therefore, they're going to die or catch COVID-19, have a chance of dying from hypertension that people have caused in the propaganda of death. So
We're scaring people to death. The government and these people are scaring people to death. Think about that for a moment. I am not saying, and I never will say it, that it's not real. That COVID-19 doesn't exist. I might as well say the flu doesn't exist. Colds don't exist. Influenza, it's not even around. Doesn't exist. There's no cancer. What was cancer? 474,000 deaths a year? Just saying. Just heard an article heard on the radio the other day. CDC has said there are less flus, or flu deaths and cases this year than there was last year. Wow, go figure. Thank you for tuning in. I'm saying it again, I'm repeating myself, but I appreciate you watching this video. I'm thankful that you tuned in. Do I have a lot of subscribers? No. Do I worry about getting a lot of subscribers? Nope. But if one person hears me out there and listens to the truth, and like the Berean, searches not only the scriptures, but the data, and finds out the truth on their own, instead of dictated to by the left and the right, I'm happy with that. So with that, I say thank you. God bless. I love you. And have a beautiful evening.